Hello, everyone. Welcome to Conversations with Sekani, a podcast for people in their 20s who are trying to figure out life and not get lost along the way. Today on Conversations with Sekani, we are talking about leadership, transformation, and power of healing from the inside out. Our guest is an educator, systems thinker, and transformational leader with more than 3 decades of experience in education and non-profit leadership. Through her work, she's helping leaders rediscover balance, resilience, and purpose while creating meaningful change in their communities. She's the founder and CEO of Your 3I and the author of An Educator's Guide for Using Your 3 Eyes. Please welcome Dr. Meghan Sweet. Meghan Sweet, it's a pleasure to have you on my podcast today.
Oh, yeah, thank you for having me.
All right. So, yes, I want you to, take us back, right? You've spent more than 30 years in education and non-profit leadership. So, looking back, what experiences most shaped your perspective on leadership and transformation?
The first one I had was in my 20s or early 30s, with a teacher I had, a martial arts teacher, and he just trusted my leadership completely. So he stood back, allowed me to test my strength and my ability, allowed me to make mistakes, and gave me just a ton of room, and a lot of trust, in my leadership. And that shaped me the most, I think. And I didn't think about it for a long time, but it's how my leadership then shows up with the people that report to me is very similarly. I try and give them a lot of room, a lot of trust, and a lot of faith so that they can test out being a leader, because being a leader is hard and it takes practice.
Wow. All right. Said being a leader is hard and it takes practice, right? So, okay. So it's not that people were born a leader. We have to actually practice before you become a leader, right? Okay. So,
I think so. I mean, I think some people are like naturally want to lead. I think there are people that naturally don't want to lead, but just because you have leadership skills or you have the instinct to want to lead doesn't mean that you do it well. So I think we all have to practice and learn all the time.
right. Okay, thank you for that one, Megan. So, you speak so openly about burnout and exhaustion in meaningful work, right? So why do you think so many passionate leaders struggle with sustaining themselves while serving others?
Well, certainly the field that I'm in, maybe in fields that are not nonprofit or education based, more of like based on consumerism, perhaps they don't have the same experience. But I think in serving fields, whether you're a nurse or a nonprofit leader working for a non-government organization, a school, we're all drawn to that work because we see that there's a need in the world for something to change or for us to be of service. So we're drawn in with that desire to make things better and make the world a better place, which is great. But when we don't take care of ourselves, then we start to run out of the capacity to keep doing that. So we run out of energy, we reach burnout, all those kinds of things. So I think it's really an issue, especially in nonprofit and kind of service organizations, because we're somewhat trained to be we're kind of probably naturally self-sacrifice a bit, and then we're trained, and encouraged to sacrifice ourselves, to not have vacations, not take time to rest, um, to, keep giving of ourselves until we're exhausted. That's just the kind of the norm and the culture in those spaces. And what it does is it produces profound burnout and people leaving. So it's really counterintuitive to rest, but it's absolutely necessary.
Okay, thank you, Megan. And I think I like that you said it right, because not many people, I had a guest one time that said when someone is creating their schedule, right, specifically leaders, they do not put in rest into that schedule, right? So I think this is something leaders need to adapt or adopt rather. Even, high achievers. I mean, everybody literally, we need to adopt rest because it's funny how even when you rest, you tend to be more productive, right? And that is what people don't know. We just believe we have to be productive 247 and we do not put in rest into our calendar or our schedule. So thank you for highlighting rest. And I think that is what everyone needs, right? So yes,
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. All right. So your philosophy, right? It centers on creating change from the inside out, right? So what does that mean in practical terms for leaders and educators?
Yeah, we need to develop a strong relationship with ourselves first. RuPaul, who's, does the drag, drag race does as a drag performer, he has this phrase, if you don't love yourself, how is anyone else going to love you? And it's really true. So I think if we love ourselves, then we can take care of ourselves and we can prioritize ourselves. So when we start to love ourselves, we have a little bit more capacity to do the rest that we were talking about, but also gives us the space to become much more self-aware. Because if we love and accept ourselves just as we are, then we can accept the parts of ourselves that we might not be proud of. We can tend to those parts that we might need to work on. And the more we're, excuse me, the more we're grounded and connected to ourselves, the better we're able to show up for other people. But if we're judging ourselves, if we're depleting ourselves, if we're giving ourselves a hard time, then we tend to model that for others and do that to other people as well. So it's really kind of twofold. Number one, loving ourselves and taking care of ourselves and starting with ourselves first gives us the energy and the capacity to show up for others, but it also gives us the awareness and the sense of yeah, I guess awareness is the only word I have best for it. That gives us awareness of the places where we need to grow so we can continue to improve as leaders. And by doing both of those things, it creates the conditions for others to show up as themselves and to be safe to really be their full selves at work.
Hmm. Wow, right. Okay, thank you, Megan, for that, amazing one. Right. So you also founded your your three eyes, right? Am I saying that correctly?
You are, it's a mouthful.
Your three eyes, right? So to combine systems that, change with personal wellness, right? So what gap did you see that traditional leadership models were missing that made you, found your three eyes?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I spent a lot of my career in education settings in America, and the secret is educators are really mean to each other behind closed doors. So a lot of us, when we give all of our energy and drive and compassion and care to the students and the families we serve, and we tend to be much harsher and less forgiving with one another. So it started by that noticing of just how profoundly that was happening over and over again. The other thing that I was noticing was that I was coaching a lot of school leaders, and they were bypassing other forms of knowledge that they had. So they only were living with, our logical thinking brain, but they were bypassing their intuition. They weren't spending a lot of time even being reflective about themselves or the history of their schools and how to learn from their mistakes. It was just looking at data, moving forward, and they're missing these key pieces of information. So I founded Your Three Eyes because I feel like what we need is to triangulate information. No one source is maybe the best one to go with, especially if you're a leader. But if you use three sources of information, you're going to be much more able to make wise decisions. So those three sources of information and the eyes are the first eye is intellect. So that's that prefrontal cortex, logical thinking and reasoning brain that humans have that is valuable, but also flawed. So that's one source of information. The second I is insight, which is really about being reflective. So knowing yourself, understanding how your history and background impacts the way you show up and the decisions you make and how you experience the world. And also having insight into the systems that you're leading. What are the historical truths about the education setting or this non-governmental organization or poverty, whatever the issues are that we're looking at? What are the historical factors that are influencing what we're experiencing today? So using that ability to get some perspective, that's insight. And then the third one is intuition. And intuition is really all about getting out of our heads and back into our bodies again. So listening to our hearts, listening to our guts, listening to information that we sometimes discount, but is actually really valuable and important for us. So what does our gut tell us we want to do? The data might be saying one thing, but I know in my heart the right decision to make is something else. When can we start to insert that kind of information in? And I believe that when we use all three sources of information, or all three eyes, we are much better prepared to make thoughtful, grounded, and long-lasting decisions.
Okay. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, Megan, I'm so sorry. My connection cut off a bit. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Okay. All right. So, if you don't mind, I would like us to continue.
Okay.
All right. So yes, I want us to talk about, leaders who feels overwhelmed, right? So for leaders who feels overwhelmed or disconnected from their purpose, right, where should they begin in, rebuilding or starting to, connect more with themselves?
I think the first place you go is by reconnecting with things that bring you joy. So, what makes you happy? What gives you a sense of purpose yourself again? And it doesn't have to be work. So, I'd say maybe even better not to do work stuff. But what would it look like to spend time doing things that make you feel happy again? Maybe that's cooking or doing, I love gardening. So, for me, it's gardening. Finding things that help you reconnect to that feeling of joy and happiness, I think, is this first step. Because once you feel
Mm.
better in one part of your life, it tends to transfer to the other. So finding that time to be joyful, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, that's a good start.
All right, finding time to be joyful, which involves, searching for different hobbies, right? Something different from work, because it's a bit, it's funny when you tell someone who loves work to, find something different from work, right? So they could just find something that gives them joy. Like you said, it could be cooking, gardening, even drawing, right? Or music, anything that gives you joy. Right, exactly.
Yeah,
So
sometimes
yes,
it's just, I'll dance. Yeah, I'll dance for 5 minutes. I'm a terrible dancer, but
right.
anything. And I think it's important to remember ourselves outside of our work or outside of these roles that we have because we're so much more dynamic than who we are at work, but we tend to focus so much on that that we lose sight of those other parts of ourselves. So it's just really important.
Right, exactly. Hey, thank you so much for that one, actually. And yes, finally, I just if you could, say if you could shift one thing about the way we approach leadership and community transformation today, what would it be?
Um, Boy. I think what we have to do is remember that each person in our community comes with really vital knowledge and expertise. And when we continue to put all the responsibility, all the decision making, all of the thinking into a small group of people at the top of an organization, and we don't bring in the knowledge and expertise of the communities that we're serving, or even of our staff, what we do is we miss things. And we don't tend to make very good decisions that way. So I would say my main thing is that we need to start taking a much more community-centered approach to the world in general, and to the work that we do, so that we can bring all those voices, all that expertise into the room. And we also can take the load off of the leaders. So we need to be much more communal in that way.
Okay, thank you so much, Megan. I think this has been an amazing and important conversation, right? This is a conversation that I think people are going to learn from, right? And before we go, I want you to talk to someone out there, specifically young adults, because that's the sole purpose of my podcast, to give guidance to the younger generation. So, if you could speak to anyone today who is probably trying to figure out life or probably trying to become better leaders, right? What advice would you give to them?
You know, it's the same advice I give to my son who is 17, which is there's only one you in the whole world, and you are precious just the way that you are. So, as much as you can live into being your whole self, embracing who you are and loving who you are, and embracing your gifts, then you're going to be so much better for the world. You're going to enjoy life a lot more, but you're also going to be giving back in much more powerful ways. There's so much pressure to conform and to be just like everyone else, but then we lose sight of the individuality. So just be you, embrace who you are, and try and do work and be in situations that allow you to be your whole self. And if you're in places where you don't get to be your whole self, look for places where you can, because that's going to be where you're going to be able to be your best self, your best leader, your best human being.
Wow. All right. Thank you, Megan. I think, like I said earlier, this has been amazing. And yes, thank you for sharing your insights with us today. And before we go, there's this segment I call the rapid fire segment, right? So you
Okay.
could either answer with a word or a phrase. So starting
Okay.
now, what is one word that defines transformational leadership?
Compassion.
Hmm. Wow. Okay. All right. So what is the biggest cause of burnout today?
The biggest what?
The biggest cause of burnout today.
I'm not sure if I understand the question. Course of what?
Okay, so what's the biggest reason for burnout today?
Oh,
Yes.
burnout. I'm sorry.
Yes.
I think it's I think it's social media.
Hmm. Wow.
Living for everyone
Oh,
else.
okay. Okay. I was gonna say, can you elaborate more on that? Although this is rapid fire, but please, I would love for you to, talk more about that. Right? Why social media? Hmm.
You want to know why social media?
Yes.
I think because we social media forces us to try to constantly be performing for other people. And I think it's causing everybody to work harder, but also be so worried about pleasing other people that you lose sight of yourself. And I think that's a big part of the burnout we have these days.
Hmm. All right. Okay. Now that makes sense. Yes. All right. So, what is one habit every leader should, practice daily?
Do something that makes you happy.
Hmm. All right. Okay. And yes, a lesson education taught you beyond the classroom.
Every single person comes with their own unique gifts, and it's our job as human beings to try and discover those in one another.
Okay. And finally, what is one message you want every listeners to remember today?
Love yourself.
Hmm.
Most important relationship you're going to have is with yourself. So spend
Right.
time building that up.
Right. Most importantly, love yourself. Right. So thank you, Megan. And where can listeners get to, learn more about you and also connect with you?
The best way to do it is to go to my website, which is drmegansweet.com, which is DrMegansweet.com. Best way to find all the different things that I'm up to for sure.
All right. So yes, thank you, Dr. Morgan. And to my listeners, thanks for tuning in to Conversations with Sekani. If this episode sparked something in you, just as it did in me, make sure to share to someone who you think might need this, and also subscribe so you don't miss out on new episodes. Once again, thank you, Megan, and do have a wonderful day ahead of you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.